Good morning, first grade Smarties, and happy Roar Wednesday. All right, so on Monday, we were introduced to a new habitat, a new ecosystem. And what was that called? Do you remember? It's called a tundra, right? And we learned that tundras are they warm places or are they cold places? They're cold places, right? So they're very cold. And season, what season is it mostly in a tundra? It's mostly winter, right? So it stays very cold. There's usually lots of snow and it has short summers where you see some of those really pretty flowers and short grasses. We talked about how the plants adapt by they stay really short. Their roots are shallow. They stay close to the ground so they don't get blown over by cold wind, right? We talked about how there aren't that many trees. And we talked about how the plants that are there, we really only see during those short summers because why? Why do we only see them during those short summers? Because it's cold for the rest of the year. Do we see a lot of plants growing in the winter? No, it's too cold. The sun is usually not out, and plants don't get enough water or good nutrients to stay alive in really cold conditions. We also were introduced to several animals in that Pebble Go article that we read about tundras, and we were introduced to Arctic foxes, Arctic hares, and musk oxen. So a lot of you know a lot about polar bears, so we're not going to be looking at the article about polar bears, but we're going to be looking at 3 different articles about animals that live in tundras or Arctic habitats. And we're going to talk about what those animals do to adapt, why they have to adapt, and then we're going to explore some other kind of interesting questions. So we're going to hop on over. We're going to first talk about Arctic foxes. All right, so we're going to come over here. Now, when you look at this picture, what is the first thing you notice about the Arctic fox? It kind of blends in with its surroundings, right? So it's white in color. Why do you think it's white? Why wouldn't it be orange like foxes that we think of? Because it helps it blend in, right? So it says Arctic foxes are mammals. Ooh, what is a mammal? A mammal is an animal that has hair or fur. It breathes in oxygen. It has warm blood, and babies grow in the tummies, right? So we talked about mammals when we were talking about seahorses and different animal features. So Arctic foxes are mammals. Thick fur keeps them warm. What's the first adaptation that we learn? They have thick fur, and that fur keeps them warm. It says Arctic foxes grow 18 to 27 inches long, 46 to 57 centimeters long. So that means they're about 2 feet long. So that's about this big. So are they small or large animals? Pretty small. They weigh up to 17 pounds. Now we're going to talk about its habitat. It says Arctic foxes live near the North Pole. This place is cold and snowy. Arctic foxes dig dens in the snow. What do you think a den is? It's its home, right? So it digs in that snow. If you look at this picture, you see these really small, they're kind of like shrubs. They don't have leaves on them. So I'm starting to wonder, they have to dig in the snow to make their homes. What do they eat? It says Arctic foxes are hunters and scavengers. So if they're scavengers, that means that they have to what? They kind of have to search for food. They have to search for what they can find. If you're scavenging for something, you're just searching for food. It says they eat fish, birds, and other small animals. Some Arctic foxes follow polar bears. They snack on the bears' leftovers. So if you look over here, here's an Arctic fox, and it looks like, based on this picture, that it might be, I'm guessing, it doesn't tell me in the picture, but it might be one of those short summers that tundras have. So Arctic foxes are carnivores. That means that they eat other animals. They eat meat to live. So that's another adaptation. They have to eat other animals to survive. Because are there lots of plants to eat in a tundra? Not really. So they have to live off of those other animals. It says Arctic foxes mate in early spring. Females give birth about 50 days later. They have 4 to 11 kits. Arctic foxes live 6 to 12 years in the wild. So here is a little kit. What do you notice about this baby fox? It doesn't look like other Arctic foxes. Remember, what adaptation do Arctic foxes do to blend in with their surroundings? Their fur changes color, right? So these babies, as they're introduced to that cold tundra, they adapt, they change, so they blend in with their surroundings. Isn't that unique? We have a few fun facts. Oh, there's a cute little Arctic fox. It says Arctic fox fur is white in the winter and brown in the summer, just like we saw in this picture. So they adapt based on the seasons. Arctic foxes use their tails as blankets when sleeping, so that also helps them keep warm. What a cool adaptation. It says Arctic foxes have fur on the bottoms of their paws. So I want you to start thinking, what are some unique adaptations that these Arctic foxes do to live in a tundra or an Arctic area? I have a couple in my mind. So I want you to turn to your grown-up really fast, and then we're going to move on to the Arctic hare. What are 2 adaptations that you learned about Arctic foxes? I'm going to give you a few seconds, and then we'll move on. All right, the next animal that we have is an Arctic hare. It says Arctic hares look like large rabbits. In summer, the hare's soft fur is gray and brown. In winter, the fur turns white like snow. So there's one adaptation. Its fur changes color just like the Arctic fox, right? It says the Arctic hare's ears have black fur at the tips. So there's one adaptation, right? Their fur changes based on the season. So why do you think they have that adaptation? Do you think it's like the fox, so it helps it blend in? I think so too. It says Arctic hares live in cold tundra areas like Canada and Greenland. They live on mountains and plains. So plains are kind of hilly but flat open areas. Now, do tundras have trees? No, so they can't really rely on trees for food and shade. It says Arctic hares dig burrows in the snow to rest or hide. Why do you think they'd be hiding? It says Arctic hares use their long claws. Ooh, that sounds like an animal adaptation, to dig through snow. They look for plants to eat. So if you look over here at this cute little hare, what is it eating? It's trying to eat a plant in the tundra. It says Arctic hares eat moss, lichen, berries, leaves, twigs, and roots. So what is that adaptation that they use to find plants? They have really long claws to help them dig and find those plants so they don't eat other animals. So I want you to think, between these 2 animals, which one do you think has an easier time finding food? The Arctic hare or the Arctic fox? And why do you think that? All right. It says female Arctic hares give birth to leverets. About 4 to 8 leverets are born in a litter. The brown gray babies are born with their eyes wide open. Arctic hares live about 1 year. So Arctic foxes live between 6 to 12 years in the wild, but Arctic hares have a shorter life. They only live up to 1 year. So that's something that is kind of sad, but when you think about it, all animals have different life cycles, just like plants. Plants have life cycles based on the seasons. Animals also have life cycles based on how they're made. It says leverets are born in a dent in the ground. They look like small rocks. Arctic hares fight by boxing with their paws. What a cool way to survive. And then Arctic hares stand upright to look for danger. So they stand like this, and then they box with their paws to probably stay away from what kind of animal? Arctic foxes, right? So I would think that, and would an Arctic hare be predator or prey? It'd be prey, right? And which one would be the predator? The Arctic fox. All right, so we have learned about two very unique animals so far, and they both have an adaptation that is very similar. I want you to turn to whoever you're sitting near and tell them, what is one adaptation that is the same with the Arctic fox and the Arctic hare? All right, turn to your neighbor, turn to your pet squirrel, mom, dad, aunt, uncle. Tell them, what is that adaptation they both have in common? All right. Now, this last one is really silly, but I think it is very interesting. It says musk oxen. So in this picture, we see a musk oxen. What do you notice? What does it have? I'm seeing some horns. I'm seeing a very hairy animal right here. I'm seeing some hooves. Oh, what is it eating? It says musk oxen are large polar mammals. So remember, mammals are animals that have hair or fur, and they are warm-blooded with shaggy hair. They weigh up to 900 pounds. Both male and females have sharp pointed horns on their heads. So I see two adaptations already that might help this animal live in this cold area, in this tundra polar habitat. What is the first thing that we know that an animal would need to live in a cold region? It would need hair, right? And the other one is the sharp horns. Why do you think they need sharp horns? Musk oxen live in Canada, Greenland, and Alaska. In summers, they live in valleys and meadows near lakes. In winter, they live on hillsides where snow is not too deep. So think about it. In these really cold times, during the winter, during the snowy time, they live closer to where the snow is not deep. It didn't really talk about what kind of home they live. So do they dig burrows or dens? No, they're too big for that, right? They wouldn't be able to fit under the snow. So they adapt by finding areas where the snow is not too deep. It says musk oxen eat grass, lichens, and willow trees. They use sharp hooves to dig for grass buried under the snow. Musk oxen must keep moving to find enough food to eat. So just like the Arctic hare, they are a herbivore. Herbivores are animals that only eat plants. Now, they have to keep moving, so they have to keep walking to find those plants because during those winters, they have to dig for plants to eat. It says female musk oxen give birth to a calf every 2 years. The newborns, here's a newborn musk oxen, are covered with shaggy fur like the adults. They begin eating plants about 1 month after birth. Musk oxen live 12 to 20 years. And here are some fun facts. It says musk oxen are named for their musky odor. An odor is a smell. Oh, here's a not very Arctic animal. She's a house pet. So a musky odor means that they must smell right. It says the herd forms a circle around their young when wolves threaten them. So that is an adaptation too. They stay together in herds so they don't get attacked. And it says about 10 to 20 musk oxen live in a herd. So what is an adaptation that the musk oxen has that is different from the other two? Okay, turn to your neighbor and tell them what is something different you learned about the musk oxen. Okay. I have a few questions for us to think about before we end this lesson. I want you to think these animals have different adaptations to live in very cold regions, right? So, what would happen if these animals had to live in a desert? What would these animals have to do to change to live in a desert? There's my first question. Here's my second question. What would you need to do to live in a tundra? What would you need to do to live in a tundra? What adaptations would you have to make to live in this kind of area? And my last question is, how do we know that these animals are mammals? So how did we know that the Arctic fox, the Arctic hare, and the musk oxen are mammals? What makes them mammals? All right, guys, I have had so much fun learning about tundras with you. Remember, tundras are cold, snowy places that have very short summers. So today, your activity is to fill out that form about which of these three animals was your favorite. Tell me a fact and why it was your favorite. So, guys, I hope you have a great Wednesday. Keep roaring, and I can't wait to see which animal was your favorite. All right, guys, have a great day.